皆さんこんにちは and welcome to Shogo's podcast. So this is the Omake talk of the video where I talked about the 5 most famous men who committed seppuku. I hope you enjoyed watching that video. If you haven't watched it yet, don't worry, I have the link inside the description box so you can take a look at it first and then come back here to the Omake talk. So in today's Omake talk, as I said in the main video, I want to talk about a few different theories or a different side of the story that I wasn't able to talk about in the main video. I mean, it was already 25 minutes, right? I really wish I could put everything in, but it was getting a little bit too long, so I'll talk about it here. So let me start off with Minamoto no Yoshitsune, which was the first person I talked about out of the 5 most famous men. So in the main video, I explained it as if his older brother was a really, really bad person, almost like a devil that, suddenly sent his younger brother that did so much for him to death, right? But of course, there's actually much more than that, yes. So Yoshitsune, after winning all of the battles against the Heiji side again, Heiji and Genji, right? Against the Heiji side, Yoshitsune was actually getting quite arrogant. So historical records say that, for example, when he was fighting with the Genji side, he actually was supposed to steal this treasure away from Heiji, but he actually lost it and he dropped it into the oceans and he wasn't able to obtain it. And he also, once the wars were ended, Yoshitsune, the younger brother, he actually ordered things to the imperial family without getting permission from his older brother, who is the leader, right? So his actions was getting a little bit arrogant, yes, and people were getting suspicious, not just his older brother. And I also explained in the main video that when Yoshitsune cried for help, I'm getting killed by my brother, please help me, I explained in the main video no one helped him, right? So that might have also sounded like, the people who fought with Yoshitsune, what kind of person can you be to just betray him that easily? But actually, Yoshitsune was a very talented samurai, in tactics, right? I explained. But he was also a super crazy person at the same time. So let me give you an example. There's a very famous battle called Ichinotani. Ichinotani is actually a valley, it was a mountain. It was a very famous battle between the Heiji and Genji. Yoshitsune was a leader of the Genji side and he wins the battle, but in order to win the Heiji side, what Yoshitsune did was he actually made his men ride their horses down a mountain to do a sudden attack to the Heiji side. Now, of course, because the Heiji side was so surprised, no one would imagine that a group of samurai would ride their horses down a valley to attack them, right? So they did win, but because of such a crazy plan, a lot of people on the Genji side who was obeying Yoshitsune, right, died because of this. They had to suddenly ride their horses down a valley, right? So the way he fought was very surprising, what should I say, it was very special in a way that people couldn't imagine at all. But at the same time, he sacrificed a lot of his men's lives very easily. And that was the reason why, probably why many people did not help Yoshitsune when he cried for help, yes. So understanding these sides kind of opens up the story, right? Makes it more interesting, yeah. And then about the second person I talked about, the devil, Oda Nobunaga. I explained that Oda Nobunaga was killed by one of his most trusted subordinates, Akechi Mitsuhide, but Akechi Mitsuhide was actually defeated by Toyotomi Hideyoshi, the second hero of the Sengoku era, in just a few days, actually. So Akechi Mitsuhide was the top leader for only just a few days, and then Toyotomi Hideyoshi takes over. But there's actually many different theories to this too, because the assassination of Oda Nobunaga is definitely one of the biggest mysteries of Japanese history, because his body, after Honnoji, the temple, was burnt down and the enemies tried to look for Oda Nobunaga's body, they couldn't find it, yes. So we say that Oda Nobunaga, there was some historical records that said that Oda Nobunaga committed seppuku, but technically no one knows what actually happened to him. How could his body be completely gone and, turned into thin air, right? So it's actually one of the biggest mysteries. And there are actually different theories where Toyotomi Hideyoshi actually ordered Akechi Mitsuhide to kill Oda Nobunaga. And as I just explained, Akechi Mitsuhide was killed by Toyotomi Hideyoshi right after the assassination, right? But there are different theories that say that Toyotomi Hideyoshi actually did not kill Akechi Mitsuhide, but changed his name and made him live somewhere happily, somewhere else as a different person. So Oda Nobunaga's story is actually so fun to study about, within the Japanese history. It's a really fun part to study about. So I'm actually planning on making a video talking about the mysteries of Japanese history. So I hope I can get to that point too, yes. And yeah, let me talk a little bit more about Toyotomi Hideyoshi too. When I talked about the story, the third person, Shimizu Muneharu, the person who committed seppuku on a boat, the lord of the Takamatsu castle in Okayama prefecture, right? I explained that as if Toyotomi Hideyoshi, again, was a really bad person that forced these innocent people inside a castle to die, right? Yes. But actually, Toyotomi Hideyoshi was, from my point of view, he was actually he was a person who protected his men and people's lives a lot, much more than his boss, his lord, Oda Nobunaga. So many say that Toyotomi Hideyoshi might have learned from his lord Oda Nobunaga that, just killing and assassinating and attacking everyone isn't a good idea. So Toyotomi Hideyoshi, I explained when he attacked Shimizu Muneharu to take away the region, the lands of Shikoku, he flooded the castle, right? So you might have think, why would you have to flood a castle? Why doesn't Toyotomi Hideyoshi, if he has a stronger army, why doesn't he just attack Shimizu Muneharu and not flood the castle, right? This was because he knew that if he made his army attack and go into a castle, maybe his men would die, right? And maybe for example, if Shimizu Muneharu's men, the people of the castle, if they surrendered quickly, Toyotomi Hideyoshi wouldn't have to kill them either, right? Because they surrendered. So Toyotomi Hideyoshi always tried to think up of plans of tactics to try not to kill people as much as possible so he can gain trust from them afterwards. So this changes the image of Toyotomi Hideyoshi a lot too, right? Yes. So in a way, he was actually a very admired, a trusted warlord afterwards, after Oda Nobunaga, who was called the devil, right? Yes. So Toyotomi Hideyoshi is really interesting to say about too. Then lastly, yes, let me talk about Senno Rikyu too, the tea grandmaster I talked about in the fourth person I introduced, right? So there's actually a different theory that says that Toyotomi Hideyoshi sentenced Rikyu to seppuku, right? Because their values didn't match and Rikyu was getting arrogant and such. But actually, this is just one side of the story. So some people say that Hideyoshi and Rikyu's relationship wasn't actually that bad. It was actually the other subordinates of Hideyoshi that was getting very jealous and angry at Rikyu because he was getting so powerful even though he was originally a merchant. So the person who reported that there was a wooden statue inside the second floor of the gate of Daitokuji Temple, right? It was actually one of Hideyoshi's subordinate that told Hideyoshi. And the reason why, I explained in the main video that the reason why Rikyu was sentenced to seppuku was because his rank was as high as a samurai inside the administration, right? That is one theory. But there's a different theory that says that Hideyoshi needed to, stop the anger of his other subordinates and such, right? So he needed to say something to Rikyu because everyone else was angry and he couldn't just say, guys, for me, Rikyu is so important, and then all of the other subordinates will be angry towards Hideyoshi too, right? So he was trying to think of a way, how can I make the situation better? He thought, okay, if I ask Rikyu to commit seppuku, all the other subordinates will be satisfied, right? That Hideyoshi was on their side. And Hideyoshi was hoping that Rikyu would say, Lord, I'm a merchant, I cannot commit seppuku, and I'm not going to be doing that right. And Hideyoshi was actually expecting Rikyū to say that. But because Rikyū knew that all of Hideyoshi's subordinates were against him and didn't like him, Rikyū said, I will then end my life here to say that my art is much more important than your subordinates' world or what they imagine what he is. And he committed seppuku. So there's a different theory that says that Hideyoshi was actually very sad that Rikyū had to die. Does this make sense? Yes. So Hideyoshi, of course, was the top leader. He was a lord, right? So he needed to control everyone, take balance, and as a way to kind of solve this problem, he sentenced Rikyū to seppuku, but he wasn't actually really thinking. He was hoping that he would reject it, but Rikyū didn't. So this is a very, I think, a really interesting side to the story, a different theory. So yeah, so it's definitely learning about Japanese history is really, really fun for me, and I hope listening to this Omake talk was fun for you too. And again, yes, I'm definitely going to be making a video talking about the mystery of Japanese history, and also from now on I'm going to be talking about how history is taught differently from my generation, from our generation, to the kids today. Some parts of history are actually taught differently, so I wanted to pick up these parts and gonna make a video about these things too. So I hope you can look forward to it. And I really would love to ask for your opinions about what part of Japanese history would you like to learn more about? Would you like to learn more about for example, the wars, or the whole history, how to memorize everything, or about a certain person, or anything? If you can give me requests on what you would like to learn more about Japanese history, it'd be great. I'd love to read more books and make a video for you. So, okay. So then everyone, I hope you enjoy listening to this podcast, and thank you once again so much for watching the two videos. どうもありがとうございました。